Well, hello again. It's me, Anna Minto, a founder of You Are Possible and creator of Maternity, Magic, and Parental Pivot. And I'm excited to join you again. Good morning, good afternoon, good evening. So today I thought I'd share with you some suggestions about retaining women after maternity leave. I mean, beyond just the standard parental leave policies of weeks and qualifications to get it. My intent here is to help both P&L owners and their HR partners navigate this change for the teams and organizations. And so what I'll go through today is my list of top 10 ways you can help retain your high potential soon-to-be or soon-to-be new parents. I feel like one of those talk show hosts. It's a top 10 list. Anyway, first, for those of you who don't know me yet, let me give you a quick overview of what I'm all about. My higher purpose is to empower people to thrive in the kaleidoscope of life. My mission is to help organizations retain high performance, high potential senior women leaders by empowering them to successfully transition back from parental leaves. So my number one table stakes is advocate that leave is truly taken. Okay. Mothers who don't fully take paid leave benefit offered have a 34% chance of quitting their job. Guess what? Mothers who do fully take a paid leave benefit, any guesses? What does that number go down from 34? Mothers who do take it, it's 2.6% chance of quitting their job. I find that just staggering. So, and if you look at first-time mothers, those numbers are also pretty startling. One study shows that fully using a paid leave has a 92% retention rate, but that drops by 20% to 72% if they don't. So there's a big chasm between adhering to the policy and actively encouraging and supporting the full use of paid parental leave, and it correlates directly with retention. So remember, parental leave is not a holiday. It's not free PTO. One study reports that 20% of birth-giving parents experience postpartum depression and 38% experience PMAD, perinatal mood and anxiety disorders. It's a major life transition. So please do consider advocating that leave is truly taken. Number two, build a culture of empathy and flexibility. In a hard-charging company, the entry point is often filled with singles and married couples without kids. Yet, returning parents need to feel secure and valued too. So ask, what can we do to help? Ask, what do you need? Every family is different, so don't assume you know what will be helpful, and up the positive feedback and recognition. Encourage coworkers to engage in what I call perspective taking rather than making assumptions or passing judgment. Try to see how it might be from the other person, the returning person's perspective. And I'm not saying that you can accommodate every request, but you can listen, really listen to the challenge and what's going on in their lives and be part of the solution. So please do consider building a culture of empathy and flexibility. Rule number three, or idea number three, plan the before and the during, not just the after. The stress and the fear about return to work starts before the leave even begins. Dedicated leaders worry about how their role will be handled in their absence and the way in which the handover is done. I call it the ostrich, the slave, and the relay runner. So let me explain that. The ostrich puts her head in the sand, pretends she's not going on leave, kind of figures it'll happen one day, always thinking it'll happen later than it usually does, and just kind of ignores the whole handover need. The slave is the person who wants to get it all done. They're often Enneagram type 3s, high achievers. They want to make sure everything is perfect before they leave. And as a result, they work themselves silly and are exhausted going into labor in the beginning of their leave before the baby even comes and starts waking them up every 2 or 3 hours. So the slave, also not such a good strategy. And then there's the relay runner. obviously, I like the relay runner. And that's because it's a smooth transition. It's a handover. It's a slow, dual roles, duplicate activities. We're slowly handing off and kind of testing the waters and ramping down as others ramp up into the roles. So beware of the ostrich, the slave, and the relay runner. And plan who's going to handle the essential tasks, cross train those people in advance. And we gotta accept that babies in childbirth are almost never gonna go to plan. So figure out what plan B is. And finally, let them know when you'd like to discuss return to work and what the transition might look like. So please give serious consideration to planning the before and the during, and not just the after and the transition back. Idea number 4, check in during leaves. Let them know that you and or other mentors or advisors, peers, or colleagues will be calling every couple of weeks to catch up with them and the baby. It is not intended as a work call, and I want to really emphasize this. It is not a work call at all. It is intended to reinforce a sense of community, of belonging, of support, and it can be used to explore a whole range of options for return as their thinking emerges. And believe me, it always changes and emerges during the leave and often oscillates. So caveat on this advice around checking in is beware not to talk about work or pressure for their return. Talking about work during leave can lead to all kinds of legal waters, and I'm not a lawyer, so I'm not even going to comment on them. But I just want to raise that for you to be aware. The call is not intended to be a work call. So please do consider checking in during leaves. Idea number 5, create a maternity return program. So focus not just on the maternity leave or the parental leave, but also on the maternity return, like holistically. Think of that as a journey, especially in the first 6 months. So 81% of US companies offer some form of ramp back to work options, according to the SHRM, the Society for Human Resource Management. Many will focus on the logistics of the return date and the capacity, offering flex time, part-time job sharing opportunities, but very few people actually think about what does that first day look like, and who are her mentors, and who are her sponsors and her advisors, and how can we best support her? So just as you would think about planning a new employee's onboarding day or week, consider what the new parent reboarding plan might look like. So please do consider creating a maternity return program. Idea number 6, know her career aspirations very, very well. Career aspirations may well have been discussed in the last annual review, but thinking is going to change by the 3rd trimester, and even more so during the leave. So if you don't know what you're solving for, well, it's hard to find a solution. So have the open dialogue and don't make assumptions. For me, I remember this amazing client case that had been in the offering, and I was surprised I didn't even hear about it. And after which I learned, well, we assumed you didn't want to travel. And for that client and that piece of work at that point in my time, I absolutely would have, but I wasn't even given the opportunity. So, check in as you would with any other employer and employee, and don't assume the mommy trap. Don't assume what she needs to be supported. So please do consider getting to know her career aspirations very, very well. Number 7 idea, consider remote and low travel work. Not every role is suitable for remote work, but when possible, consider the option of working from home for some portion of their week, and be aware of and be careful about offering this option to only employees you like. That can open up a whole other can of worms when some people are offered this flexibility and others are not. So consider how you systemize it. It may require formalizing some policies, and a big caveat on this, be really clear about the stipulation that remote work is not a full-time substitute for childcare. Right? Remote work means you're working. And I've seen so many of my clients attempt to do the work from home, especially during COVID, and it was very, very difficult and fragmented and hard to truly re-engage. So do consider how you offer remote and low travel work and what that might look like. Number 8, consider a short-term transition period. So depending on the baby's and the new mom's health, both physical and emotional, some new moms may need more time to recover and may need a little extra attention and care. Others may benefit from a ramp up, like say from part-time to full-time or a reduced travel schedule. But remember, unlike diamonds, this is not forever. It's maybe for 3 or even 6 months. So please do consider and review just how flexible you could be in offering a short-term transition period. And remember, if you can't offer something like this and somebody needs it, you're going to lose them to regrettable attrition. Number 9 is a fairly broad idea around embrace stress relievers. The big ones here are the EAPs, the Employee Assistance Programs. And while that's a big policy decision, it can really help with finding reputable daycare, a pediatrician, or a community group that supports new moms. It can even go as far as, and I've seen in some great clients, recommending personal chefs or errand running services or house cleaning or other services that help to reduce stress and time commitment of the new parent. Some larger companies have even added on-site healthcare facilities, although those are reducing somewhat in our post-COVID environment and fewer people being in a physical office location. So that's the big play. But for full-blown, if full-blown healthcare and childcare supports are not in the cards for you and your company, you can even consider bringing in other time-saving health services like on-site vaccinations, things like that. Some companies even offer in-residence psychology support on particular days of the week or month. One of the big 3 consulting companies locally has a psychologist in residence every Friday, and consultants can book an appointment and just go chat about what's going on. There's some creative things out there. On the more extreme end of New Age thinking, and this may not be for all of you, but you can consider scheduling an in-office massage therapist, a chiropractor, an acupuncturist, and these tried and true alternative health practitioners deliver stress relief for many, and they benefit all employees, not just the returning parents and new moms and dads. Okay, let's talk about in the context of stress relief. There is this breastfeeding, and there's something called the lactation law, and the Fair Labor Standards Act, the FLSA, requires employers to provide basic accommodations for breastfeeding parents at work. It needs to be a private space with a table and a chair, and that's the bare minimum requirement. But think about it. You can design a better space to help new mothers feel comfortable and welcome. It can be as simple as adding the right plugs, having the right temperature, a comfy chair, not a bench. And just think of, ask your people, what would make you feel more comfortable in this space? Make it functional and cozy. Another idea around this stress relief is peer mentoring programs to consider. It's not like the returning mom is the first one to do so, and peer support and lessons learned can be vitally important. And it eases anxiety, it adds perspective to feelings of having been, sometimes left behind or an imposter or just, behind the edge or not being promoted when peers are, all those kinds of things. Peer support is very important. And I'll have one last thought, and that is provide healthy snacks. So create a welcoming, healthy environment because it's a win-win proposition. So please do consider how you're embracing stress relievers and what actions you might be taking. And finally, drum roll, number 10 is all about remaining agile. So the key here is to use formal policies as the foundation. That's the non-negotiables, right? This is what we do. This is our policy that's stated as black and white. It's probably on the website or in the employee handbook. But then add in flexibility and common sense to the particular situation. Look for that intersection between what the new mom is needing at this point in her life and what your organization can possibly provide. Have the discussion with an open mindset and explore what I call the art of the possible. You might actually be really surprised by what you discover together. And often there's little risk in experimenting and trying it out, at least in comparison with the massive risk of parting and massive cost of parting ways with a high potential, high performance woman leader who is suddenly gone. So please do focus as a mantra as your culture remaining agile.